We've managed to get Tom and Chris here in a enclosed space at the Blizzard booth here at Gamescom to ask them a little bit about what's going on with World of Warcraft. You made some announcements yesterday?
Yeah, definitely. We are primarily talking about our patch 4.3. We have a lot of killer new features and a bunch of new content. We have stuff like transmogrification, we've got the void storage, we've got the raid finder, along with the Deathwing raid tier, new dungeons, and the Dark Moon Fair. So all that stuff that we've been, trying to share information with. Certainly, Chris knows all about transmogrification. That's right up his alley.
Right. So why don't you just take it away then?
Yeah, definitely. Well, transmogrification is essentially giving players the ability to take stats from one item and give it an artistic treatment from another item that they appreciate. So for a long time now, players have been asking for the ability to customize their armor sets, and we're working on a lot of solutions for that down the road to give players the ability to customize and to look more independent from other players. But in the meantime, we felt like we had this wealth of currently existing armor sets from previous raids or dungeons or whatever, PvP armor sets that we just have sitting on the shelf right now that people aren't really using. So why not use all that stuff and give people the ability to use it as well? And so we came up with a system where you go to Chatrath or Ogremar, and we've set up camps where the ethereals have actually or can give you the ability to transmogrify your items. So you'll take a pre-existing piece of armor that you have and one that you'd like to turn it into, and essentially combine the two and customize your look through that system.
So people who are on the same level and have done the same raids won't look the same.
Yeah, exactly. Like we found that as we've made more high-tier armor sets available to players so that more people can wear epic gear, it's somewhat homogenized the look of our player base. So we certainly wanted to stay away from that, or to try to fix that as much as possible. And also to just respond to fans who for a long time have been saying that they feel like they are similar to all their players. And we feel like this is a good solution to that problem.
And you mentioned void storage as well. What does that mean for the players?
Mostly what it means is they'll be able to fully take advantage of the transmogrify feature. Kind of an inevitable consequence is that players are going to stockpile more and more gear because they're always going to have it in the back of their minds of, well, maybe someday I'm going to want to look like tier 10 once again or whatever. And so they're going to want to hang on to it. And people being the pack rats that they are, we don't want them to feel like they need to delete those items and then page a GM and say, can I please have this back? Since that wouldn't really be viable for us. So
infinite storage way.
Yeah, exactly. So we're trying to find ways to give players significantly more storage than we would otherwise be able to do.
And in terms of new content to experience, what are you guys planning there?
Well, really the content is focused around the Deathwing raid encounter. Since Deathwing is the great antagonist of the Cataclysm expansion, it's what we've really been building up to as much as possible, and we want him to be the most epic raid encounter that we've ever done. So to support that, we are really putting a lot into this patch, with all the bosses that lead up to him in the raid tier that he's a part of, and then also with, of course, with his encounter. He has a whole bunch of different phases, and the phases themselves are even broken down to some extent into sub-phases within that. It's a more extensive encounter than we've ever made before. It includes some crazy new tech, like stuff that allows players to fight on his back as he's flying toward the maelstrom, stuff like that. So, as they try to wrestle him down to the ground so they can take him on the ground, that sort of thing.
Is it a challenge to find sort of new ways to design a raid these days and to make it sort of interesting for players who have done so many things in the past?
For sure, it is, although a lot of times the challenge is in actually making it work. We can sit around and dream up all kinds of wacky stuff sometimes, but when the rubber hits the road and you actually have to make it happen, that can be quite a challenge. He would know all about it.
Yeah, we get, Deathwing is built to be seen from a distance, and then Tom comes in one day and goes, hey, what if we fought on his back? And we go, oh, how are we going to do that? And then we spend weeks just trying to figure out, we rebuilt, a certain section of it, and I don't know, we don't want to go into too much detail on that right now, but it's certainly caused a lot. It's fun, but at the same time, it's kind of that, like, how are we going to pull this off feeling.
So you guys have been working on this game for a very long time, and I guess, you have the pipeline pretty much as smooth as it's ever going to get. So how is production these days on World of Warcraft?
Right. I would certainly not say that it's as smooth as it's ever going to get. It is as smooth as it's ever been. We've certainly made improvements over the years, and we're trying to still get it to be even more efficient. I mean, the production is still chaotic in that we, because the iterative nature of the way we do things at Blizzard, and we're changing our minds a lot, causing fits for Chris and the programmers, with these spur-of-the-moment decisions. That
I think that's the benefit of being the director, right?
to some extent it is. Although if I get stabbed one day, then it all falls apart for me. I still think there's a lot of ways that we can streamline our development approach so that we can deliver content more efficiently still.
Were there any lessons that you learned from when you launched Cataclysm that you feel that you're incorporating now into this?
For sure. There are lessons to be learned from every different type of perspective, like high-level strategic perspective, more tactical perspective, all the way down to the actual tools and technologies that we use to make things happen. I would say that with Cataclysm, one of the things that we tried to do with Cataclysm is make our item creation process much more efficient than it ever has been before. And that was from multiple standpoints. Not only from the standpoint of we have always had a tendency to change our minds on what the item level of items would be, and so we finally got a system in our tools to where we can actually just change the item level of an item, and it will automatically adjust all the stats accordingly and adjust them properly. Whereas before, if we changed the item level of an item, it meant we would have to go through and tweak every single number individually, and it was hugely time consuming. So we've become much more efficient in a lot of different ways. I'm sure Chris can probably add to that too.
Yeah, I think, even down to minute details like putting effects on characters that we, when you look at it as a standalone unit, and we try to envision this, grand effect coming off, say a death effect, we'll put these effects on these characters and then not necessarily always think about down the road when it's, there's 5 of them on the screen, or it's, filling up your entire screen and you have this like flashing strobe effect when they're dying. We thought it was great, and then we put it out there, and we got a lot of feedback, both from just people who didn't necessarily like the effect and people who are actually being affected by it, from the strobing effect. So we remove that, and we're always learning just like little things like that, which by themselves don't seem like that big of a deal, but when you start to pile them on top of each other, you really get a sense for what works in the game world, what players respond to, and what we shouldn't do moving forward.
I can imagine that since this project has grown so much, the art direction is like it's ever evolving, and you can sort of easily make a mistake just putting something that's not really in place or little things like that.
Yeah, certainly, and I think we're always trying to take risks. We never want to get to the point where we just feel safe and it's follow this direction and never take any chances. So anytime you're going to do that, you're going to run into a situation where some things don't work. But it is worth that effort to try new things out and explore new avenues because you'll never know where you're going to get. And I think that if we hadn't done that, we wouldn't be where we are today. We also have, every time a new artist joins the team, we always look for people who know the style but who actually have a little bit of a twist of their own style to add to it. And that always brings in kind of like that new, a new direction that we can, freshness. And I think we can look at the game as artists and see where we sort of got to those points where we realized, this is a new point for us, or we get the new water tech from our programming team, and it's it goes all across the world, and we have the ability to play with that. Like just things like that will always help us develop and get better.
So what's the timeline for the new patch?
Well, we should be going to the PTR relatively soon, but unfortunately that's about as clear as I can get. And then, players have a pretty good sense for how it develops at that point, how long it takes us to deliver after that, usually, within a couple months. So hopefully it shouldn't be a very long wait at this point.
This world and all that you hold dear exist only to burn. The end comes, Son of Duratan. The final hour of twilight. And there is nothing you can do to stop it.